So today we're going to be going over how to produce some phytoplankton. So I've got my gloves on. I've sterilised them already with isopropyl alcohol. It's basically bacterial infections in culture will crash the entire culture, so everything has to be very clean. And you're going to see that with the next bit, but basically I'm using sterile containers. So this is a 2 litre one. I've got 1 litre ones as well, and then I've got some 5 litre jars which I haven't cleaned out yet. Here we are. So these will be for the larger cultures when they go on. So I've got 5 of them, so I can do 25 litres at once. But I'll be keeping at least 1 litre culture going of each phytoplankton. I've got just as a maintenance thing. So if my large cultures crash, because it's more difficult to sterilise the 5 litre vessel than it is a 1 litre vessel, so there's more chance of contamination there. So if you keep a small one going constantly, you've always got backup and you don't have to buy any more. So we've got where have I put my tetraselmis? Here we are. So I've got my tetraselmis here, phytoplankton. I think this should hopefully do well. I've done lots of phytoplankton in the past, but I basically shut down when I moved. So we're starting everything back up again, and I've got a new bit of kit as well. So my new piece of equipment is a tangential flow filter, or a hollow fibre filter. I'll show you that now. So this is my spare sump. If you followed me on my Instagram, you'll see that I started off with that. I've added a second sump so I can have a big protein skimmer on it. But this is my new piece of equipment. It just looks like an RO membrane. It's very similar in how it works, but instead of a plastic mesh, it uses ceramic tubes inside. There is a picture on my Instagram of the inside. Look at it. But so essentially you've got a pump down there which is pumping the water up here, and then we have a wastewater coming out here, because that's going back into the aquarium, and then we have a line coming out here which is producing the sterile water, because the pore size on the ceramic tubes is 0.2 microns. So I can show you here. So this is 75 microns, and you can sort of see how tiny that is. This is 10 microns, you can see how tiny that is. Well, this is 0.2 microns, so not even bacteria can get put through it. So I've sprayed some isopropyl alcohol in this a minute ago. So basically it's struggling a little bit. I've got to wash this out, as it were. So I've used that clean water that I produced, and I'll just slosh it about to get all the alcohol out, and we just pull it out. So that'll just be a bit of wastewater, but it's not the end of the world, as it were. And the importance, I think I said it earlier, but the importance of sterilising water is to stop bacterial growth and stop ciliates and things contaminating your culture. So while that's there is another way of sterilising salt. Well, there's a few. You can either put it in autoclave, so you've got to use heat, pressure. So you're talking, to sterilise a thing like this, you've got to put in it an autoclave drawing like 2 kilowatts for sort of 15 minutes. I don't see how that's sort of acceptable. It's going to be the best way to sterilise it, but I can't see that anyone would ever do that unless you're in a proper lab setting or you're growing samples to then go into larger and larger cultures. Then the other option is using basically you put bleach in it, and then use sodium hypochlorite. Is it sodium hypochlorite? No, sodium thiosulfate. That's it. So use sodium hypochlorite as the bleach, and then sodium thiosulfate as the dechlorinator. It also removes ammonia. Good or bad, you tell me. Phytoplankton, I think, can use ammonia directly, so I'd say maybe bad. But the sulfate, if you get it wrong, you put too much phosphate in the water, and that can cause different species to grow. So if you get any bacteria in there, they feast off that, and then they'll overtake the rest of the culture. So this, you can see, is not producing much water, as it were, but while we've been talking, I've filled up to 500 millilitres. So 500 millilitres in sort of 4 minutes. So I run this for sort of 20 minutes. I'm definitely filled up, and all it takes is a pump. You do need to wash this, so you can wash it in bleach, and that will essentially you submerge it in bleach overnight. I can't remember the exact concentration, and that will get any biofilm off, but that's only really if this is in continuous use for a long time. The shellfish hatcheries do that about once a week, but their hollow fibre filters are taller than I am, and they're producing like 20,000 gallons a day. So yes, no, you won't be doing that often, but I mean, as you can see, there's a bit of mulm in here because I've just moved my protein skimmer from this tank into here, and it's come off the side. If that gets stuck in the pores, because obviously they're tiny, what will happen is you can do a backflush, so you connect that to the pump, then run it, and then it will backflush the whole system, and then you've cleared the debris away essentially, and the bleach would help to dissolve that if that was an issue. So definitely an interesting way of doing it. It's a bit more industrial for a hobbyist, but it didn't cost too much. I mean, obviously there's cost of the pump, cost of the hollow fibre filter. The hollow fibre filter run me back about 50 quid, not too bad. And the fittings that go in the hollow fibre filter run me £10, because they're sort of specialised. I had to get them cast in resin for 3/8 hose tail to 1/2 inch bob. So 3/8 inch male thread to 1/2 inch bob fitting. So this you can get from China. AliExpress has a few, but the best way is to get them on Alibaba, because you can speak to the manufacturer and they'll tell you exactly what you need. Yeah, and we're put some F2 in this and put the phytoplankton in. And this here is F2 fertilizer. So if you can, it's backwards for you obviously, but it's 1 mil. This product specifically, the F2 fertilizer you buy might be slightly different, but basically it's 1 mil per 2.5 litres. I've got 2 litres there. I put 1 mil in, just make life easier. But you want to be doing this every few days into your cultures, because if they run out of nutrients, you'll see their colour goes slightly yellow. Obviously that can lead to a crash, because if the phytoplankton die, ammonia, and then ammonia, and then ammonia, just like with a fish tank, with one fish die, it can cascade quite quickly. So always remember to fertilise. If you're using water from tanks like this, make sure the water's clean in terms of nutrients. If your phosphates are coming out at 1.6, like my reef tank was coming out a few months ago, it's back down to 0.03 now, but if they're coming out really high, don't use it. Use fresh water, still run it through the hollow fibre filter to sterilise it, but use fresh water. You don't want to be using tank water, which is dirty. This is 0.08 phosphate, and I think this is 3 nitrate, which isn't a hell of a lot, and with the fertiliser it's not going to make too much of a difference. But with obviously very dirty water, that will encourage bacteria. Yeah, I think that's about it in terms of fertilisation, and we'll show you how to set it up. So we're back. I've just got my sterile water here, so you see it's complete. I mean, there's a few bubbles in it, but other than that, it's completely clear, completely clean. So I'll put it up to 175, and basically now all we've got to do, I'm just going to put the phytoplankton in. We're going to put the phytoplankton. So again, sterile gloves. Make sure you've got everything nice and clean. We're just going to pour it in. Now, the culture that I've received is quite dense regardless. I mean, that almost looks finished to me, to be honest. But we're going to give it a little while, a week or two in here, running. So what we do next is, all I do is I grab a airline tube that has been sterilised. It's connected to an air pump already, and we've got some tin foil. So the tin foil is going to go over the top of the culture. This is important. It's going to help reduce contamination, so it's going to go over top like that. Try and get a decent seal on it if you can, and then if I can do this one-handed, we're going to pop a hole in the top. There we are. So it pops a hole in the top, and boom. So if you can see, the phytoplankton is now moved about. This is a bit weak. I'll just quickly turn it up. If I can with one hand, there you are. That's better. So ideally, for large cultures, you're going to be using basically a paddle wheel, because that doesn't produce any bubbles. Because it's been found that the bubbles you use for phytoplankton can actually, with fatty phytoplanktons, and the phytoplanktons can stick to them and it can cause damage to the phytoplankton cells. So you want to be using large bubbles. If you're using too small a bubble, obviously there's more surface area for the phytoplankton to stick to, and that can cause damage to them. So let's quickly put these back there. So I'll show you the final product. You see he's in there. He's got the bit of tubing going through the top, and he's bubbling away nicely. He looks darker than he actually is on camera. He's a few shades lighter than that. So this is Tetrasalmus. So we'll see how it goes. I'll update you in about a week's time with the progress. So here we are a week later. Well, actually it's more than a week, because I took that video on Wednesday. It's now the next Friday, and you can see it's got very, very dark and it's ready for splitting. So just to speed things up, I'm going to do half in there and half in there. Obviously it just makes everything a bit quicker, because it'll only take a few days for it to fully colonise over there. And then I can do I'll keep one running, just topping it off with fertiliser, and then every now and again taking some out and filling it back up. And then I've got a few copepods in here, which have just been sat in here for the past week, not doing much, because I put the raw grama system on, and I took some very small copepods out of here. But yeah, that is how you grow phytoplankton. It's easy. It's pretty cheap. I mean, all you've got to do is have a good light, an air stone. I say cheap. You've got to spend £100 on a filter, but the continuous maintenance of your phytoplankton is very, very cheap. Yeah, let me know if this was helpful in the comments, and I'll see you next time.